What's up, y'all? You're tuned into Vision and Heels Uncensored, the podcast dedicated to giving you the raw truth on all things V&H. We're talking real-life experiences infused with faith and an unwavering commitment to authenticity.
I'm Yvette Marie Pujol, your Vision and Heels Community Manager, a Cuban visionary with Miami roots.
And I'm Jeanette Marie Rodriguez, the CEO and founder of Vision and Heels, Puerto Rican and Dominican Bronx native, your New Yorican host. We're here to share our take on navigating life, business, and all the hats we proudly wear.
Time to pour the cafecito. Let's dive in.
Hey y'all, Jeanette, aka J-Rod, aka J Marie, Jeanette Marie, is here with you guys tonight. Took a little bit of a hiatus, took a week off, had some stuff, personal stuff to deal with, which we will get into a little bit today. But I didn't want to leave you guys 2 weeks without an episode, so I'm recording this in the evening from my home just to kind of give you guys a little update and some perspective on some things that came to light the last couple weeks for me that I wanted to share with you guys, that put some things into perspective for myself and just, helped me get through a difficult time. Before I get started, I wanted to say some gratitude, as Yvette and I like to start off with, and I am just grateful. I'm gonna say I'm grateful to be in some good weather. Thankful that I live in Florida. I spent some time in New York, and I'll tell you guys why in a minute, but it was freezing cold. I am a New York girl, was born and raised there, but I can say that I don't remember ever feeling the cold that I felt last week in the city. So I'm thankful, and I don't think I'll ever complain about our winters again after going through what I went through last week. So I'm thankful for living in the Sunshine State. All right, so today's episode, y'all, the title for it is My Grandmother's Secret, Abuela's Secret of Independence, Love, and Living Without Regret. So as I'm sitting here today with tons of emotions, just so much stuff going on, I take this time to talk about business, finance, scaling, all of the things that we have to endure in business, even motherhood we talk about. But today I want to talk about just leaving a legacy, right? When all of the work is done and our time here on earth is over, what kind of legacy do you want to leave, right? And for those of you that do not know, I recently lost my grandma. She was a couple months shy from her 90th birthday. But in the silence of that loss, I kept coming back to a conversation that changed my view about just life in general and just how she lived life, right? I was tasked with preparing the eulogy for the funeral services, preparing the online description of my grandma and the family. And I was so surprised just to see how big we were. I mean, I think I counted 12 grandchildren, I think 20 great-grandchildren, and then I believe 6 great-great-grandchildren, right? And so just to know that legacy started with my grandma and grandpa and how much they have left behind. My grandfather passed away a few years ago. My grandma just a week and a half ago. So, in being it took me a couple hours. I was actually in the car en route to a volleyball tournament in West Palm Beach in Palm Beach County. And I had my husband drive so that I could take some time out to kind of gather my thoughts and type up this eulogy and the online, just the story of grandma and all of the good stuff, and load all the pictures for the slideshow that was going to be presented. and gather all the pictures from the family to make sure that everyone was included. And it just, like, I had to take a pause, and that's probably why it took me a couple hours, because I just was like, wow, I felt blessed that we are such a big family, and that my grandma was alive to see everyone that I mentioned on that list. And she got to know everyone that I mentioned. So yes, we're sad that Abuela's no longer with us. But, you know, we're grateful that we got almost 90 years with her, and that we were able to be part of such a beautiful growing family. I mean, no family's perfect, right? But, you know, we are a growing family, and there was an announcement of another baby. So it would have been her 7th, I think, great grandbaby on the way. So Abuela, we keep growing for you, and we keep living. Anyways, so I wanted to go back and share a specific memory that I had of my grandma. And she always was one, she battled cancer for the 2nd time, even in her age, right? And she always looked forward to a new day, right? She always, even when, you know, they gave her 6 months to live, and she ended up, you know, living, 3 additional years. She always looked forward, oh, I have to make my dentist appointment. I have to go to the doctor's, or I'm going to wear this outfit for my next appointment. So she always looked forward to a new day, no matter what the circumstances. I'm sure she felt her body changing and kind of, you know, not necessarily failing her, but she knew something was happening, but she didn't choose to live in that, right? She chose to just be excited for another day, plan for a new day, not to plan her funeral, but to plan another day. You know, and sometimes we get so caught up in our day-to-day or our circumstance that we don't even think about, hey, tomorrow's a new day, a new opportunity, right? Because we're so stuck in what happened, right? In the current day, and the reality of the current day. Because the reality for her was she was dying of cancer. You know, the cancer, she no longer was able to take chemo. And, you know, she just wasn't strong enough. You know, she was getting older, and her body couldn't take chemo anymore. So, you know, she knew the chemo treatments that were keeping her alive, because at this point they couldn't go in for surgery because of her age. So they were just trying to keep it contained. And so when the doctor saw that the chemo was doing more harm than good, he decided to stop all chemo. So, but my aunts and my mom decided it did no good for them to tell her, hey, the doctor thinks you have 6 months left, right? They just let her keep thinking in her mind she'll still have tomorrow. And that same thought process got her 3 years when the doctor gave her 6 months. So, you know, just thinking about that and how she lived her life. And I'm sorry, guys, I think I got like some sort of cold or cough because of the weather change. It was literally, it felt like negative, I don't know, 10 degrees over there. It was so cold. So I'm drinking tea while talking to you guys tonight. Wanted to get through this. But yeah, I mean, this was tough. This was a hard pill for us to swallow. You know, even though, we knew her time was coming, right? You know, not only was she old in age, but she had cancer, which the doctor confirmed that had spread to her lungs. So we knew, right? At this point, we were just praying. My mom prayed heavily on, you know, she just didn't want her mom to suffer, and just prayed that the Lord take her in her sleep. And that's exactly how she went. So we're all sad, but we feel blessed that the Lord heard our prayers and took her in her sleep. The nurses did say she passed away peacefully. And my grandma was a fighter. She was a fighter. So, you know, I just thought about some of the things in this moment, how our sacrifices and regrets sometimes can hurt us, right? The sacrifices that we make in life. And sometimes we think, hey, we have to sacrifice so much as moms, as wives, as just, wearing all the hats, right? But when you are at the end of the road, is that the legacy you want to leave behind? Right? Do you want to leave behind and you want them to say, hey, my mom sacrificed so much? Or do you want them to say, just like I thought and I said and I shared in my goodbyes to her at the funeral, I just remember her always wanting to live another day, right? And so not necessarily the negative things. I saw that, so that's the legacy she left to me, was be excited for another day, right? Plan for another day, right? So some of the things, and you guys know, I'm a big thinker, and I had a lot of time on the plane, at the airport, and even on the car ride to West Palm Beach when I was writing this and drafting this for my grandma's services. I just thought, some of the things that she left behind that will forever have an impact is, the first one I'm going to say, never settle for fine, right? If a decision makes you feel like you're shrinking or that you're not able to be yourself, it's the wrong decision. So regret is heavier than the risk of starting over, right? Take the risk and start over, right? What else can tomorrow hold for you, right? Instead of just, hey, I'm going to deal with this just because, even though I feel that it's not what I want to do, I'm just going to deal with it. No, regret is heavier than the risk of starting over. And the power of beauty and love, right? Something, she always did. She always had her nails done and her hair done and makeup. And they did such a beautiful job at the funeral, and they painted her nails the bright pink she liked. And the girls, my aunts, were able to pick out a pink casket for her. And she just went out the way we remembered her, right? They did such a beautiful job in keeping her genuine, right? She believes in looking and feeling beautiful and never giving up on love, right? My grandma was a widower. Her husband died, and she always held on to hope of finding love again, right? And she always looked beautiful because uno nunca sabe. You never know who you're gonna see out there, right? It isn't about vanity. It's about self-respect and keeping your heart open. Even when life is hard, she always wanted to look and feel her best. And then she treasured independence, right? My grandma never took any crap from a guy, right? Talk about her strength and how she valued her own agency in a world that tries to tell women to be small. She was a giant. She didn't care. She would tell you like it is, men, women. She didn't care, right? She didn't let she didn't let a man, make her feel less than, right? She felt that she was as equal, and my grandma was born in 1936. I'm sure she saw her share of, she was living in times where women wasn't allowed to buy a house or have a credit card and all those things, right? But still, she was a tough cookie who treasured her independence, right? And then the last thing I want to leave you guys with is, life is short. I thought about a conversation, her and I had, and she talked a little bit about regret and how that changed her life initially, but that she woke up and she made different decisions in her life. But she spent a lot of time, in living in that regret. And it just reminded me that and we had this conversation, I'm going to probably say less than 2 years ago. So it was fresh in her memory, and she told me the story like it was yesterday, and obviously it was many moons ago. But what I saw in her eyes, that even though she made decisions later on that changed it for her, the regret of not initially acting on it was there, right? And so that's why I'm telling you guys, never settle for fine. Regret is heavier than the risk of starting over, right? Just remember that life is short. So that conversation we had a couple years ago, it was a wake-up call for me, right? And some of the things that I asked myself, and I want to share with you guys. So I want to say, I'm going to ask all of you, where are you settling right now because it's safe? Okay, the second question, if today was your last day, would you be proud of the choices you made this morning? Right? Let's not even go way back. Let's think about this morning, right? How did you wake up? What did you say to your loved ones? How did you kick off your day, right? If it was your last day, would you change anything about your morning, right? And are you protecting your independence, or have you handed the keys and your happiness to someone else, right? And we can do that as moms, even as business owners. We make decisions because we want to be, there for everyone else, and we want to make sure that everyone else is taken care of. And we're doing all these things, but it may not be the best decision for you, right? So who have you handed your keys to? Your keys of your happiness. So one thing we can all say in my family is that we remember my grandma to be this loving, charismatic, beautiful, perfume wearing, makeup wearing, dancing grandma, right? She loved life, she loved love, and she loved dancing, right? So I'm honoring my grandma by living 2026 with that same spark in my eyes. I'm choosing happiness, I'm choosing love, and I'm refusing to settle. I want the same for you. So tonight or today, whenever you're listening to this, I want to sign off by telling you guys, go dance, go laugh, and never take crap from anyone. And that's straight from grandma. So I'll see you guys in the next episode. Until then, and I'm going to end this with a little note from my grandma. I love you, abuela. Bendición. All right, guys. Well, with that, I leave you all. I pray that you guys have an amazing week, and that this short but sweet episode touches you guys and make you guys think, tomorrow's not promised. So let's live today as best as we can. Good night, y'all. Wow, that was some strong cafecito we poured today on Vision and Heels Uncensored. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. We are truly grateful, as it really helps us pour more into your heart straight from ours.
Remember to live your truth, handle your business, and shine bright.
We'll be back soon to pour some more. Stay blessed.